Okay, let's see. Is it 1 o'clock? It is. We'll get started. Okay, so I wanted to do a call to share with the team some things that I've been thinking about lately. It's very exciting, I think, on the outside when you are looking at Jules or you hear about Jules or you see Jules posting. And of course we want to put our best foot forward. And so we post about the fun stuff, the exciting stuff, the trips, the comp plan, the gifts that we might get, the Lexus, of course, because, we want to show people that, hey, being involved in Plexus definitely has its perks and it's exciting and fun and it's very beneficial and we're nicely rewarded. But that's not what being a jewel is. Being a jewel is not really a thing. A jewel is just a normal person. It's just a title or a rank that you're given once you reach a certain level, but it's not something that is made to make us special in any way. It's just kind of where we are in our particular journey with Plexus. So I kind of been thinking a lot lately, and I'm like, it can be kind of a bummer to those who have been working their business for a long time and maybe haven't ranked in a while or gotten to a different level, or haven't, reached, jewel status, and not that it's status, but I was thinking it can be kind of sad to, be like, well, why did they make it, or why did they earn it, or how did they get there? What do they have that I don't? And yeah, of course, there are certain qualities that a jewel needs to have. They need to be able to be, obviously know how to work their business. They need to be able to attract other people to what they're offering. They have to be good leaders, but for the most part, we're just all human, no really extra special skills. We're not superheroes. So I wanted to do a series of calls with a few different jewels who I know personally have gone through some struggles in their life, either before Plexus, during Plexus, maybe Plexus helped them get past it. Maybe they had their struggles while they were with Plexus, or maybe it was before. But I think that will help a lot of people kind of be able to take a step back and think, you know what, maybe I'm not working my Plexus business as hard as I can because I have these struggles. And I'm not saying that people use their struggles as an excuse, but I think that sometimes struggles do hold people back. They think, well, I shouldn't be focusing on this area because I do have this struggle or have this issue or have this problem. So, I don't have the right to pursue something else. And I think a lot of times struggles hold people back. So anyway, today is our first call, and I have Becky Page, who is my guinea pig today. She is a Diamond Ambassador. She's so cute, and I picked her because she is like the most genuine, kindest, like one of my favorite jewels. Don't tell the others because they will get jealous. But she's just so great. So she's completely authentic and no, masks or, just completely genuine. And I know she's shared before in other events where she's had a history of some struggles. And so I wanted you guys to hear her story if you haven't yet. And we're going to ask her some questions. And hopefully by the end of this call, you guys might be able to type in some questions too if you've got questions for her. But so Becky, tell us about kind of your history, not with Plexus, before Plexus, kind of growing up, where you came from, and all of your juicy details.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Shay. Shay and I, like she said, we got to meet. Shay, I think we met at convention, on the way to convention when it was in Phoenix. What was that, in 2015? And then later that, at the end of the summer, Shay and I did a meeting together when I was like super duper pregnant. Like, I think I was having contractions the whole drive home.
Yeah.
So it's been fun for me to get to know you too. Okay, so a little bit of my background story is that I am the firstborn daughter of a Baptist pastor, Baptist preacher's kid, and I grew up in a great family, but definitely I call it life in the fishbowl. Like, I grew up knowing that people were kind of watching and that I needed to behave in a manner worthy of my dad's calling. But really all that did was make me hyper aware of what I thought other people thought about me. And I really think that it filled me with some anxiety. I didn't really get to label that as anxiety until I was probably almost 30 years old and had done some personal work on myself. But grew up definitely as a people pleaser, a little anxious about wanting people to like me or to approve of me, and grew up in a family where outward appearances, even though my parents wouldn't have come out and say this, I picked up on the fact that people were watching and what people saw was important. So that was some of the beginnings of, I call it just being a Christian show pony, that I grew up very aware that how I behaved was really important for other people. And what I've come to learn is that how I behave is really a reflection of a relationship that I have with God where there is freedom and grace. But it took a couple decades for me to get that one down. Shay knows this, but I went to Texas Tech University, and at Texas Tech, I got to be a completely different person, and I tore it up. So I had this one life in high school, and I flipped and went totally into partying and really seeking a lot of approval with boys and friendships and the Greek scene and the party scene and all of that. And so by the time I was settling down in my 20s and trying to figure out what I wanted to do in life, I actually entered into a slow and long season of anxiety and depression, and what I call clinical depression. This isn't depression that happens because of a sad event in your life. It's depression that starts slowly and after a while becomes a season where you don't even realize that you're depressed. When I finally woke up and realized how depressed I was, it was because I had actually made a plan for and a date to commit suicide. And I did not even realize the core of that until I told someone about it. So personally, I come from a background of anxiety that goes untreated for a long time, then becomes clinical depression.
And what was the factor, like what made you get to that point? Were there other things going on in your life, like with school? Were you like getting bad grades or, not getting the attention you wanted from certain boys? Or was it just the clinical part, just depression slowly progressed to the point of suicide?
Like it was kind of all of that. I wasn't in school. I was out of school at the time, and I was in my first job out of college. And I had just like that bad relationship that hung on after college, and was struggling with it. I was also training for a marathon, so physically, I was kind of exhausted. Right. So there was some real physical exhaustion. There was just some mentally, I was ruminating on feeling rejected by someone. Mm-hmm. So I was stuck there, and then outwardly, I was pretending that everything was okay, which was actually kind of creating the perfect storm for things to not be okay. Because what it was essentially doing was saying, well, I remember waking up in the mornings, looking in the mirror and thinking, I hate you so much. And I remember also thinking, if anyone knows some of the things that you're thinking and feeling, like you will be so rejected. Just thinking no one can understand. And so what happened is that perpetuated the depression, because depression in and of itself, you feel very guilty. I'm also, by the way, I'm also a licensed therapist, and was in practice was in private practice here in Dallas for 10 years, built my own private practice here. Love counseling. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But what happens is depression, a symptom of depression is extreme guilty feelings and feelings of worthlessness, and then isolation. So you feel guilty, worthless, and you can't talk about it.
Alone. Yeah.
Perfect storm.
Definitely. And so what helped you, is that once you decided you reached that point, was that a wake-up call to you where you're like, okay, now I need to get help. I need to do something. I know this is how I feel, but I know it's not how I should be feeling. So what did you do about it once you realized?
That's a good question, Shay. I think coming out of depression it's sort of like you've been sitting in a really dark room for a long time, but you haven't realized it's gotten dark. Like maybe it's been dusk and the light's been fading, but you can still see okay because you're used to the dark. So if someone flips on a light or opens a door, it's kind of shocking and jarring, and it's sort of a slow walk out of that room. I wouldn't say your mind essentially wakes up right away. It took someone that I loved and respected in my life saying, I wish you'd stop feeling so guilty about being in a depression and just go get some help. And he actually said, this was one of my dearest friend's dads who had a history of depression. And he said, I will pay for you to get some counseling. And it was just something about him using the phrase, stop feeling guilty about being depressed, that was my first realization of, oh, I'm depressed. Like,
right.
Really even real. I mean, I was planning my suicide, but I didn't realize I was depressed. It was
right. Yeah.
That's the confusion that comes from major depression.
Yeah. And I don't think a lot of people put that together. They, they just feel so bad and it's just their normal. They don't realize like, maybe I shouldn't feel this way. Or they don't realize, well, even like we could probably go on forever, like postpartum depression, people don't realize, like they just feel awful. They don't know why. And can you still hear me? I think my phone is.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Very good. Okay. All right. So from that point, then you decided to seek counseling. And is that when you decided to become a counselor yourself? And how long was all that process? Were you able to kind of, in depression, I'm sure it can come and go. But how long was that process of being able to kind of get back on your feet and, get out of that?
Well, yes. Okay. So yes, I did decide to go get counseling, and I spent 6 months in once a week sessions with my therapist. And I also started a program at my church that was really helpful. It's a 12-step program just based on biblical principles. And even though I wasn't wrestling with alcohol and drugs at that time, although I was definitely coping with alcohol, but that was almost like, gosh, I think I worked the steps consistently for 5 years, but it was after a year of doing that and counseling that I really felt recovered, or in the process of recovery. I made a decision during the first 6 months to leave a job, and spent those 6 months doing some other stuff. And that's when I realized, okay, I really want to become a therapist. And so about 6 months after starting my relationship with my therapist, I went into a master's level program here at Dallas Seminary to get my master's in counseling, and then spent, the next several years, not only getting a counseling degree, but learning about depression, anxiety, and continuing my own counseling and continuing a recovery program. So like, it was just like it was like boot camp, mental boot camp. It was like, and it was a wonderful season.
That's very good. And how much of that do you feel, I mean, I know this call isn't necessarily about Plexus or the products, but you shared some stuff in one of our events. Like, how much of that do you feel, and you call yourself like the science geek, where the gut and the mind and the serotonin, it's all connected, and that can cause, issues possibly like anxiety and depression. So do you feel like that was a factor for you as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So fast forward, let's see, the year when my depression, I finally dealt with it, was 2002. So fast forward like over a decade, about 12 years, is when I start seeing my friend Andrea Mitchell posting about Plexus on Facebook. And I was, eye roll. Oh, what is she into this time? She's already done one of these crazy things. I hate, the counselor in me, I hate when people try to sell weight loss, blah, blah, blah. But she started posting about the probiotic, and I had been reading just enough studies at that point to know that the current research is showing such a connection between mood health and gut health, and that a lot of forward-thinking psychiatrists were now prescribing probiotics either along with or in replacement of SSRIs, which are selective reuptake inhibitors, or SNRIs, these things that are meant to work on our neurotransmitters. And we're actually prescribing good probiotics to help with the treatment of anxiety and depression. So that was kind of like my professional and personal buy-in. Mm-hmm. I had been on a probiotic. I had researched it. I had tried to buy, the most expensive one I could buy, thinking, of course, like if I spend a lot of money, then
it's going to be the best. Yeah.
I never felt anything. But I was like, well, probiotics work. Research shows it. I took Probio 5 once, and I felt it. Not only did I feel myself detoxing, and I felt, all those toxins start to leave my body. I mean, I had a dull headache, felt kind of brain fog for 3 days. It definitely, for a lot of people, they got to get a little worse before they get better. And for me, I had no idea how many toxins that were in my gut that I was dealing with. So I spent, and by the way, you mentioned postpartum depression. I want to say, with my first 2 children, I went through not severe, but pretty general, moderate postpartum depression. And for me, it looked more like postpartum anxiety. Had a lot of trouble with sleep, had a lot of trouble with feelings of fear coming up right around bedtime. The fear that I wouldn't get any sleep, the fear that I would feel all alone. I felt lonely. Didn't last for too long. And it started to kick out right when I was able to add exercise and really kind of get to that place where you finally get enough sleep to take care of yourself. Yeah. I had that history too. So fast forward to me starting Plexus, I felt so drastically different on Plexus products. And really I felt less irritable. I felt less anxious, and I was sleeping so well. And then when I had my third baby last fall, at 40, which my other two were a lot earlier in life, I felt so much better at 40 with a baby than I did without my Plexus products. And I really believe it's because that immense connection between immunity in your gut and mood health in your brain. And we've got this major nerve that travels down the back of our esophagus. Mm-hmm. And that's where the brain and the gut talk to each other. There's so many important things that happen in your digestive system that are key to mental health and mood disorders. So I'm a believer.
I think it's so important. And, and I agree, I would not, of course, everybody's, depression and anxiety and their own moods are, individual and no two are alike. But I think for women in general, we all probably experience some form of that. And I think it's hard, people don't recognize it. They just think, oh, I'm just in a bad mood, but they don't understand how it's all connected. And we're just so conditioned to well, this is how it's supposed to be. I'm supposed to live like this. If I'm tired or if I'm moody or if I'm grumpy, oh, well, it's PMS or it's whatever. And it's not until you do something about it, maybe even unknowingly with Plexus, that you never really realize how good you can feel, and you don't have to live like that. Not that there won't be problems, all the time, or popping up again, or in the future, but it definitely helps, or, you definitely, until you experience it. I'm sorry, I'm kind of like squirrel here. I've got people running around, but for me personally, that's kind of a little bit how it was too. I never really realized, I think I had some postpartum depression, probably not severe, but just kind of feelings of oh, I don't feel, unworthiness, not like I'm a terrible person, but I'm oh, I have no, nothing to give to the world, or I'm just, not just a stay-at-home mom, but, you kind of get those feelings. And, then as my kids got older, I was kind of moody and yelling all the time, but I had my hormones tested and the doctor said they were in range, so they were fine. Lots of air quotes there, but there's a big range of, what your hormones really should be. So, for you to be feeling well. And then for me from the beginning, when I started taking Slim is when, I needed weight loss at the time, but my mood and me not yelling and me feeling good, I'm oh my gosh, is this what I'm supposed to feel like? I'm supposed to be I'm not constantly happy, but just I don't want to yell at my kids. Everything doesn't piss me off, and I don't want to kill everybody. And then of course, later on with the addition of the ProBio, it definitely helped things much more. But I think it's just interesting that we're conditioned as women to just not realize that and not take on any of that, and, think that that's just normal. Oh, it's okay. You can go behind, it'll be famous. Okay, good. All right. So we'll move on from that a little bit. So then, okay, so you got past that, and then you got involved with Plexus because Andrea shared, and then you were okay, wait a minute, there's something to the probiotics. So she's got my ear. And so you joined, and you were feeling better with the products. And so tell us a little bit about your success story. You had your own practice, your therapy or counseling, Counseling.
Yeah, it is therapy. Yeah.
Okay. Your own practice. You had 2 kids, and then of course, you had were pregnant for a while with your third. How did you manage all that? You were growing fast with Plexus. You had your business. You had all these kids. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that's a great question, because sometimes I'm
how did I do it?
Lots of prayer. One of the things that really helped me, I try to encourage people. I really know what it's like to have a lot on your plate, and to struggle with. I'm a firm believer in the quote from Theodore Roosevelt that says, comparison is the thief of joy. I definitely experienced that in Plexus. Whenever I would compare my journey to someone else's journey, or my results with their results, whether it was a business result or a health result. So I focused, I spent 2 years. It was just over, I think it was like 26 months was my journey from joining to Diamond. I don't even like to tell you those dates though, because I don't like anyone to compare. And my story is mine alone and yours is going to be yours alone. But so what I'd like to focus on instead of the time length, because really I don't know how I did it. I really, God wanted it to happen and he made it happen. But I did during that season, I stepped back from things that were like fluff in my life, things that were like noisy but not necessary. So one of the things that I have always done personally in my business, and it makes me different and not better, but I do not work past about 7 to 9 p.m. at the latest. The only reason I'm doing work at 9 p.m. is because I've been on like a training call with someone, and I try to end those by 9:30 at the latest. So my health, my mental, physical, and spiritual health is like, just personally, is totally dependent on me going to bed at a decent hour. Now, some of my best friends in the business, like their prime time is like 9 p.m. to midnight. That is when they get stuff done. That's when they're like ruling the world, training people, posting, but it just wasn't me. So I had to detach from what worked for other people and figure out what works for me. And what works for me is waking up at 5, getting a workout in. My husband and I both love CrossFit. He loves it more than I do. I like to tell people that I'm a little cross fat. But we work out in the morning, and really I spend a lot of time of quiet, focused time with God in the morning, like reading the Bible, praying over specific things, journaling about what's going on in my life, and then really trying to focus after I've done all that on, hey, God, who do you want me to talk to today? And how can I be like a good steward of all this? How can I like really help people? Because for me, man, the money is great. The health stories are wonderful, but helping other people is really in line with the same vision that I had in my counseling practice. Like, man, I just love helping people. So those are some things that I did. I got up earlier. I didn't watch TV at night. I'm not saying that we don't binge watch TV. It just totally happens on a weekend. Also, just a real commitment to physical health. I don't think I could have had a private practice and a growing Plexus business if I weren't committed to workouts. That's my therapy.
Right.
It's the only thing I do that's only for me. It doesn't benefit anyone else, and that's why I do it. And it's good for me. It keeps me sane. I'm a firm believer in whole body wellness. The idea that if you're going to have balance, you can't imagine that we're made as holistic beings, meaning that we're like interconnected. If you've got one part of your life that's off balance, then your other parts are affected, like your mental, your physical, your spiritual health. It's all interconnected. So you got to find time to take care of it all, especially in this business where we're promoting health. So that's always been key for me.
Yeah, I definitely think that it's different for everybody. Some people, while everybody should exercise, that's kind of the same for me. If I don't exercise, I would not do CrossFit. I do a lot of walking and I try to do yoga, things like that. But like, if I don't do something, I feel terrible for like the whole day. So I know that like kind of gets my endorphins going, or, just whatever it is, even if it's something light. But, you might have Sally over here who, again, while exercise is good, that may not be her jam. She's maybe like happy doing other stuff and she just needs her coffee or maybe journaling or reading a good book. And that's how she, unwinds. So I think what I feel on that a lot of ambassadors struggle with is that I know that there is so much material out there, so much information on what you should be doing and how you should work your business, and IPAs, income producing activities, and don't watch TV, and do this first, or say no to, and it's so overwhelming and confusing. What would you say, or would you say that people kind of just need to find what works best for them and not to feel guilty about if they're not doing these 10 other things that other people suggest to them? I mean, as a counselor, what would you say to people who are like, okay, well, I have personal struggles, everybody's telling me to do these, all of these things, and it's all overwhelming, and I feel guilty about everything. What would you tell them?
Well, first and foremost, like, you got to deal with the guilt. So guilt doesn't come from God. it's just not connected to him. So you've got to be able to distinguish like the voice of truth from, like I mentioned, all the other noise. Mm-hmm. I think, there's a few things that if you put them into practice consistently, maybe they don't happen daily, because maybe like your week changes day to day and you don't have a reliable schedule for various reasons, but there's certain things that if you put them into practice regularly, you will see fruit. A huge part of those is building your own belief in both the products and the business. That's huge. So you don't have to be a product guru. I can't even tell you how many jewels I know that don't understand all the ingredients in the products. You don't have to be that person. You just have to have access to some of those answers. So whether, if you're like me, I needed to know those answers for myself. And so I devoted like crazy amount of time of study to this stuff. Mm-hmm. If you're like me. If you're not like me, don't reinvent the wheel. Get like the 5 basic things you need to know about every product and have them somewhere on your phone where you can like cheat and do that, but make it simple for yourself. Mm-hmm. So building belief in the products, building belief in the business. Like if you're close to a meeting, I would encourage you to get to a meeting at least every other month. I personally, as a diamond, go to a meeting or host a meeting or plan a meeting every single month. Just because I need it. There's something about connecting with other people, hearing other people's testimonies and stories. It like fills my sails. I know that some people live somewhere where you don't have access to that. So do an online meeting. Like when your upline offers, a training call or even a call like this, and you can jump on, not because you feel guilty, jump on because you need to connect with other people. You need to hear someone else's stories. You need to be reminded of why you're doing this.
I agree.
And then really share your why. When you share your why in person, over Facebook and other social media, through an email or through a phone call with someone you've pursued, the more you share your why, the more it will reinforce everything that you're trying to work on. And it'll remind you again daily why you're doing this. So
I agree. That's so important. I think that people they get excited when they're around others in Plexus or on calls or at events. And then they're like, okay, I've got this. I don't have to go to every event, or I don't have to always be involved. But then slowly over time, passions start. I mean, even though intellectually they know, okay, yeah, the products are great. Everything's great. I love the product, but their fire starts dwindling down because they're not, around that often. And I think that really helps to fuel people. And I think that is so important. But so that's good. That's very good. I think I like what you said about, getting rid of the fluff and drowning out, the things that, are just kind of making noise that really aren't important. Don't let yourself stress about, okay, I have to be doing all of these, million different things that everybody tells me to. You have to find kind of what works for you. Okay, I don't have to know every ingredient, or I have to know every ingredient, whichever of those that is, do it. Pick your jam. Whatever your jam is, pick it and go with that. All right, so good. I have one more question for you. I want to talk a little bit longer. I don't want to keep you or everybody all day because I really appreciate you doing this, and I know your time is valuable too. So you're a diamond now. You've been a jewel for some period of time, and you've had struggles in the past. And of course, we all have struggles with our business, and every day is a struggle when you have kids and a spouse, or a job, or whatever you've got going on in your life. But more recently, you've had a couple of more struggles or issues happen. You had something recently this summer with your husband. He had a medical issue, and do you want to tell us a little bit about that and kind of how you dealt with it, what's going on now with him, and how you've balanced everything with that going on?
Yeah, I do. Thanks for asking. I'm so glad you asked me about this too. And I actually want to jump back to when I was a senior Ruby, because I want you guys to know that there have been 2 seasons of like stress and grief that I had to work through. So when I was a senior Ruby, it would have been in like July, August of 2014. I was pregnant and was excited. It's kind of a surprise, and had a great summer. I mean, just Plexus was doing great. I remember I won the Silver Stars trip about 2 weeks before some things happened, and just felt like I was on top of the world. Well, come that August, I had a miscarriage at 11 weeks, and had never had a miscarriage before. And it just like hit the brakes on my life. Ironically, it hit the brakes internally, even though I kept going externally. I kept seeing clients. I remember feeling so like just heartbroken. Clients would start to tell me something and I would have to work so hard not to cry because I wanted to cry for me, but we were here for them. And I was working really hard at my private practice then. And so it all kind of went inward. And the one thing I couldn't keep doing was my Plexus business. I didn't abandon it, but I was in so much pain and sorrow. And really, I was angry. I was really, at the end of the day, I felt really angry with God and myself. Like I felt flawed and I felt so confused and disappointed by God. And so in that time, y'all, and here's the beauty of the Plexus compensation plan, my level 1 actually passed me and went emerald because I hadn't developed enough on my outside leg. Now, that is a great thing about Plexus because, y'all, she deserved to go emerald. She was working so hard. Her family needed it, and she did a great job. So she passed me. So I had this like double. I was, and I will tell you the truth, I was not upset. I literally was like, it's like when you're running with someone and they've got more energy. I was like, go. And I just kind of stopped and was like, I'm so worn out. And so I really needed a season to grieve. And I ended up, this was in August, I ended up going emerald at the end of that November. But I look at that 3-month period and was like, I had to reevaluate, I had to figure things out, and I had to mourn. And there needed to be space for that. And I'm so thankful to my sponsor for giving me space. Because I know for her, she was like, oh, keep running, you're so close.
Yeah.
But so I went through that. And then like Shay said, this summer, I'd gone diamond in March. I actually made the prayerful decision to retire from counseling in May and stay home with my kids. Y'all, I argued with God about that. I told God, I'm going to retire in July or August. And I really felt impressed by, you need to do it in May. You need to be home with your kids. And I realize now that God saw something coming that I didn't see coming. So we went to Colorado in mid-July for a family vacation. And the first day there, my husband had a moderate stroke. And I say moderate because if you know anything about strokes, you can have a mild and moderate or severe stroke. And it was the very first day we thought he had altitude sickness. And I heard him fall. And he was upstairs in this cabin we were in. And I heard him fall and I ran upstairs and y'all, I took one look and he was not well. And I knew immediately that it was a stroke. And I did not think he would survive. So he was care flighted into Denver. I was on the road for 4 hours with kids, driving to catch him at the hospital. And obviously, my entire business just completely hit the brakes. And thankfully, the beauty of network marketing, because this is relationship marketing and because you will recruit your friends and the people you care about, and you will grow even closer to them via this business. So these people, like literally, I was on the phone with my best friends / business partners, and it was the Plexus connection, because somebody in Plexus who's not even on my team, their husband, who's the CEO of a hospital here, called the CEO of the hospital that my husband was being care flighted to. And literally, I didn't hear a word from my husband couldn't speak, but I didn't hear a word of anyone caring for him. But I heard through the Plexus grapevine that he was improving on his flight. So, I mean, just how neat. God knows this stuff. He knows the stuff that's coming up around your corners. And he knew that this was coming for us. So really, like the month of July was kind of a wash for my business because I needed to focus on my family and especially my husband and my children. So you guys need to know too that, the things that you think are going to really hurt your business, the things that you think are a weakness, like they can really end up being a source of strength. Like if you break a bone and that bone gets reset, the place where it broke, when it has to regrow, actually becomes stronger. So it's all those broken places that you think are a mess for you. They're going to be the things that God really built something on. And this sounds terrible, y'all. But one, I was totally vulnerable with people on Facebook. I was like, please pray. We are living a nightmare. We're terrified. People started praying for us. Y'all, as I've been doing cold calls this month and reaching out to people, hey, I just wanted to check with you. Do you know that the one thing people respond right away, first of all, because they've been praying for me and my husband. But two, people love vulnerable people.
Yes.
To authenticity, vulnerability. I'm not saying that you turn Facebook into your own personal journal and diary and, don't get all negative, but don't be afraid to be real with people. That's why I brag about the fact that I've been through depression, not because I think depression is great, but because I want people to know, like, hey, you don't have to hide from me. Like, we can talk about this stuff.
Right.
And my husband's stroke, I'm like, all glory to God. He brought him through that. We are so dependent upon God, and we're more passionate than ever before about health, and it opens the doors for other people to talk to us. So whatever you're worried about, just remember vulnerability is attractive.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I remember even just watching your story unfold, and the Plexus community is so, we're close knit, even if we don't know each other. Like you were saying, you had people you didn't even, know in person that were like, everybody's rallying, and there's stuff going, and there's stuff going on behind the scenes. Even just for me, I'm like, I know we're commenting on stuff, and, friends that know you and know me, and like, we're screenshotting, okay, here's an update. Did you see this update? And we're like, it's like, so you're probably not even aware this is all going on. Like, it's like the world is like, oh, what's going on, and how can we help? What can we do? And okay, there's an improvement, and this is the newest details. But that's kind of probably what network marketing is supposed to be about, but I don't think it's really found. I'm going to try not to cry. You're trying to make me cry. You like it when people cry. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to wait till we get off. And then I'm going to cry.
You're about to say something that's on the tip of my tongue, so say it, because you were talking about it's not usually this way.
Well, it's just not usually this way in network marketing. This is my first experience with network marketing or in MLM, but Plexus is totally different. It's a family, and with all families, I know there's ups and downs, but I don't think in any other network marketing company they have the kind of the love and the camaraderie and the genuine, feeling and caring about other people. And yeah, we might, some of us might fight like siblings at Thanksgiving every once in a while, but I think that the reality is that there's no other business like this that, we're going to care for you. We're going to care for you like, our own family or children. And, we're going to rally for you when you have a struggle. I don't want to go into too much detail. I have an ambassador on my team who recently lost her husband, and, she's like, I've got to step away from it. And we're like, we're going to rally for you and behind you. We're going to be there for you. So I don't know if I was really going to go anywhere. I'm really trying not to cry. I'm not going to go anywhere else on that. But so I think, and how is your husband now? And how, I know he's been out and about, but do we know anything, what caused it, or?
So we don't really, and I just want to say thank you, Shay, and you got to meet Russ in Hawaii, but thank you so much, because just hearing that you guys were like sharing the prayer requests, I will tell you, like, I could feel it. I could feel people praying for us and people's love for us. So I warned my husband when he came to Hawaii, I said, listen, going to say, I've been praying for you. And how awesome is that, y'all? Like, people that we had never even been praying. So he is really well. My husband was the picture of health when he had his stroke. And so we were really baffled. He does have a genetic mutation that could play into some blood clotting issues that he's treated by functional medicine, at which many of the Plexus products have been approved for. Also, tomorrow morning, if y'all think of it, just throw up a prayer for him tomorrow morning. He's having a scope where they're going to go through his esophagus and drop a camera down on the backside of his heart. They're looking to see if he might have a small hole, and if so, we'll have to get that repaired in the near future. But it's just a minor procedure. But once you've been through stuff like this, you're like,
right.
Lord,
yeah, always a concern, but
I just need to trust. But
right.
He's doing really well. That's the thing, is we just are, both of us, really passionate about helping people with their health. Even people who appear to be doing perfect can sometimes have things going on. And so it's another thing. I can just tell you, like, there's absolutely no way we could afford some of these medical issues without my Plexus income. So we are both so thankful, so grateful.
Right. Absolutely. Well, thank you very much. I think that, I just really wanted to everybody to know and understand that no matter where you are in your Plexus journey or your story, that it's just so important to keep going, and jewels aren't special, and we are real people. And I think it would serve everybody well to be authentic and who was it, Carrie Wilkerson in Hawaii, and she'll probably say this again, for people to take off their mask, just be yourself. Yeah, we want to post things on Facebook that look cool and fun and exciting to kind of get people to, be like, hey, Plexus is kind of cool. Maybe I'll do that too. But it's not all about trips and cars and, and shopping and all of that kind of stuff. We're just real people who genuinely care about other people. And it happens, anytime anybody has like a real life issue or a real life struggle, we all genuinely care. It's not like we're behind the scenes like, oh, well, this, so-and-so sick. Oh, well, the heck with them. No, we're like, oh my gosh, so-and-so sick, or this happened. And, what can we do? Do they need help? Do they need meals? So Plexus is truly the greatest bunch of people ever. And I hope also hearing all of this will help anybody listening that is going through any sort of struggle to know that we're here for you. You can have struggles and you can still be successful. We're not going to beat you up if you need to take a step back and you don't do your IPAs every day, or you decide to binge watch something on Netflix because that's what helps you charge. But I just think that's important to know that we're all real people. We're all in this together. And if we focus on what your why is, and hopefully your why is probably to be healthy yourself, help other people, and to maybe help your own family financially or help yourself, I think that we'll all be better off. So I don't have any questions for you. And again, I don't want to take any more of your time, but do you have any final thoughts to wrap up? Because I know you had some notes over there.
I know, yeah. So I think I said, I think it was kind of half-heartedly quoting from 1 Corinthians where Paul is talking about how he boasts all the more gladly in weaknesses. But I just want to remind you guys that, God isn't glorified in all the things that we're naturally good at and all the things that I get pats on the back for. He's really glorified in the areas that we struggle, because that's when we really need him and run to him. And I would tell you guys to don't be afraid to talk to your sponsor about areas that you struggle in. And remember too, that more glory and good comes out of some of your sufferings, sorrows, and struggles. And people will be more drawn to you and to God through those things than you think. So don't feel like, step away from fake book, stay vulnerable, and also reach out to people and reach out to God. This business for me, it's just totally God's plan and his idea. And I pray every day over it. And some days I'm a good representative for him, and some days I'm a poor representative, and he loves me either way. And my prayer for you guys is that if you're going through a hard season, that you would know you're in good company and that there are people you can talk to. And also that most likely you can grow past this and become even stronger in your business, but even more importantly, in your daily world, in your life. So I loved your idea, Shay. I'm honored to be your guinea pig.
Oh, thank you. You're an excellent guinea pig. You're great guinea pig. Well, I wanted to ask if anybody had any questions. I know we have a few people on. Let me see if I can figure it out. And again, I don't want to keep you forever. Let's see. We had a few chats. Carrie says she can relate. Thank you for sharing. And prayers going up. She typed that when you were talking about your husband's procedure tomorrow. Let me see if I can unmute everybody. I don't know if I necessarily want to do that, but or I'll just ask: does anybody have any questions? If you guys want, do you want me to unmute you, or is everybody pretty much satisfied with just listening to this fabulous sharing? I'm so confused. I'm clicking on the buttons. All right. Well, I have nobody clicking on the chat. So, okay. Now let's see. Thank you for typing that, Diane. Obviously, I don't know how to use this. She said no questions. So, okay. Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. I love seeing your sweet face, and hopefully we can do some more of these. Get some other jewels who just have had their own struggles and kind of share with everybody. It's okay to have struggles and how to get past it and to carry on.
Thank you, Shay.
Thank you, Becky. Well, I'll talk to you later. Bye, everybody. Thank you all for joining.
Bye-bye, y'all.
Bye.